Being one of the 5 lands to stay since opening day, Disneyland's Tomorrowland is definitely a classic. But these days, Tomorrowland is objectively a bit of a mess. So today, we're going to be talking about the history and the evolution of Tomorrowland. And at the end, we'll talk about what I think are the 4 steps Disney should take to make Tomorrowland better. Let's start with the reason a lot of people say Tomorrowland nowadays is bad. The problem is its theme. Tomorrowland is themed to the future, and at first this doesn't seem too bad, but when you think about it, that means that Tomorrowland will get outdated really quickly. Take Frontierland, for example. Of course it will have updates done to it every few years, but the amount of updates will be significantly less than that of something like Tomorrowland because of its setting. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Tomorrowland will need to be updated every year. Rather, I'm just saying to keep that futuristic feel, you need to update it a lot. And I don't know about you, but if I were Disney, I wouldn't want to do that. So, what is Disney's genius solution to this problem? Let's see, do nothing. I'm not saying they haven't updated the land. In fact, in the past few decades, there's been multiple renovations. All I'm saying is that, presently in 2018, it feels kinda cheesy and outdated. And that is why some people nowadays dislike the current Tomorrowland. And now what you're all here for, the history. You're all about to get a lesson on Tomorrowland history. Like I said earlier, Tomorrowland was one of the 5 opening day lands. When it opened, it had only a fraction of the rides it has today. In fact, due to rushed construction, it only had 1 ride, Autopia. However, when it opened, almost all of the 36 Autopia cars were wrecked due to reckless driving and crashing. This is only one of the reasons that this day would go down in Disney history to be known as Black Sunday. Soon after this, though, multiple companies opened showcases, including Monsanto Company, Richfield Oil, and American Motors. At this time, Tomorrowland actually had a showpiece. It was the TWA Moonliner. This was a huge rocket which at the time was actually the tallest structure in the park, which we all know didn't last very long. And actually, when Tomorrowland opened, it took place 21 years in the future, in the year 1986. Soon after all of this, though, many new attractions opened. Among these were the Tomorrowland boats, the World Beneath Us, which showed Earth's geology, and the Aluminum Hall of Fame, sponsored by Kaiser Aluminum. The final ride to open in 1955 was the Flight Circle. Now we move on to 1956. Remember those Tomorrowland boats? Oh yeah, they're the Phantom boats now. Later opened attractions included the Dutch Boy Color Gallery, the Astro Jets, and the now legendary Skyway to Fantasyland. The Skyway was a means of transportation from Tomorrowland to Fantasyland or vice versa. It provided you with a scenic tour of both lands, with such landmarks as the Nemo subs, the Astro Jets, and even an up-close look on the Matterhorn, all of which were later rides to come. Oh, and remember those Phantom boats? Yeah, they're gone now. Now let's jump to 1957. Some of the rides to premiere during this year included the Viewliner, which lasted only about a year, and the Monsanto House of the Future. Nothing major happened until 1959, where 3 new e-ticket attractions opened. The first ride was the Disneyland Monorail. This was a futuristic form of transportation that Walt Disney envisioned for the world. Unfortunately, his idea never became a reality. The next ride was the Submarine Voyage. This ride was very different from the ride we know today, however. You went to places such as the North Pole, the bottom of the sea, and the lost continent of Atlantis. You would also see things such as sea serpents and mermaids. Next up were the Matterhorn bobsleds, which previously was actually a picnic area. The ride was later moved to Fantasyland, where it stands today. We now jump to 1966, and where Tomorrowland was getting quickly outdated. Most of the attractions featured there were just for various sponsors. So, in 1967, they planned a huge expansion. Most of the land was demolished to make room for some new rides. Some of these included the Carousel of Progress, Adventure Through Inner Space, Flight to the Moon, and the PeopleMover. The Carousel of Progress originated in the 1964 through 1965 World's Fair. However, due to the success of the attraction, General Electric agreed to sponsor the Carousel of Progress at Disneyland. The actual ride is a rotating theater stage show attraction which explores the technological advances of the 20th century. Adventure Through Inner Space was actually the first ride to implement an Omnimover system, similar to the Haunted Mansion. The actual premise was that you entered a microscope and shrunk to a size smaller than an atom. I think this is really cool, and I think they should bring back this ride, but more on that later. The PeopleMover was a classic attraction where you could just sit down, rest your legs, and enjoy the views of the park. As you can see, you would have gone through Star Tours, which came after, but since this was filmed in 1983, you can actually see it.